Speaking of which, here are some pictures sent in to our Eyewitness portal. Let's begin with this one from Ilarogun in Osun State, showing the bad state of road there to the link bridge to the General Hospital. Our Eyewitness reporter raises concern over the danger this road portends. He's pleading with government to, according to him, come to our rescue. Next is a picture of a gully erosion in Kogi State. Our Eyewitness reporter says it's over 30 feet deep and 700 meters wide and still expanding. He's urging government to forestall further damage, especially with the rains coming. Coming from Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, is this picture of people struggling to get fuel at a petrol station. That's become a common sight these days. And lastly is this photo from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, of a micro car overloaded in and out. It's not advisable to travel like this anywhere in the country. It should be discouraged, our Eyewitness reporter says. Thank you for sending in those pictures. Do keep them coming. We do appreciate your reportage of what's happening out there. And in less than a week from now, voters in Britain will head to the polls to choose a new leadership from the country. Incumbent Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party, David Cameron, is battling to clinch a second term, but the forecasts show the opposition Labour Party leader, Ed Miliband, is giving him a good run. Our correspondent in London, Doris Okenwa, reports.
Every tick of the clock draws Britain closer to a new political dispensation. Now the campaigns have been fervent, to say the least. Parties and their candidates have been putting their best foot forward, moving around the 650 constituencies in the UK, engaging in debates and presenting their manifestos to the people. The prize is for a single party to claim over half of the 650 seats to be able to form a majority government in Parliament. Now this has been described as the toughest elections yet. There is also predictions of a hung parliament, and this is a situation where a single party is not able to claim majority votes, so there might be possibility of a coalition, but all this remains to be seen.
In a practical sense in Britain, what we have is an incredibly unpredictable election, and we are unlikely to have a government with the same clear mandate to implement a full set of policies. Now, some people certainly see that as a good thing. They see coalition politics as being more based on compromise, more based on restraint, rather than one party having too much power in the system. But I think the problem in Britain, in a way, is that we still have a voting system and a parliamentary system which is really designed for two parties to do well in, for one to be in government and one to be in opposition, the government in waiting, as it were. And at the moment, the political system hasn't reformed to reflect the changes in the political party system.
People are generally disaffected with politics. Definitely the future of people in this country, the future of this country is very important, and it's about how do we deal with the deficit, how do we deal with unemployment, how do we deal with people who are even employed. Some of the benefits have been cut and people are not coping. People are committing suicide because they're not able to live comfortably. People are going to food bank in this day and age in a developed world country like the UK. So those are all the issues that need to be taken forward.
The stakes are high, issues run deep, and the people want more precision than promises.
As a voter and as an ordinary Briton, it doesn't make me feel very confident that either party of Labour or Conservative is really listening to the ordinary person in the street. We have a huge number of people, particularly young people, who cannot afford to leave their parents' houses and go and be independent and start families of their own. We have a National Health Service, one of the gems of British life, in acute crisis.
The upcoming election and who is going to win is really not what we think is important, because it doesn't matter who wins the election. The importance of the election is what favors the people of the community.
The 7th of May, coming Thursday to be precise, will see eligible voters marching to the polls around the UK to decide what Britain's next level will be. A moment of truth for the country, the people, and even the international community. Doris Okenwa, reporting for Channels Television News, London.
Back home, the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, has set up an assessment committee to review the party's performance in the 2015 general elections. A 15-man committee headed by Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu has the governors of Akwa Ibom, Godswill Akpabio, and Abia, Theodore Orji, as members. The governor-elect of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, and the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Emeka Ehedoha, are also members. Others are the Minister of Interior, Abba Moro, Senator Ahmed McAfee, among others. We turn to one of our major stories tonight, which is the Nigeria Labour Congress, which could not hold an acceptable election twice this year. The result today is a divided house for a group often seen as a last baton of hope for workers, market women, and artisans. Now, how did the NLC end up with two presidents after the March elections?
March the 13th, 2015, the botched Nigeria Labour Congress election ending in Abuja with both candidates, Comrade Warba Ayuba and Comrade Joe Ajero, claiming victory as president of the NLC.
Whatever result we get from this election today will not be acceptable to Nigerian workers. It's not about that this election should be null and void.
30 minutes to the election. Another motion, another instruction was brought from the conference in session that another candidate has also filed a nomination 30 minutes ago through the same process. And now the conference in session is saying print ballot paper for this particular candidate, all within some hours. So that candidate was also taken in, and these ballot papers were put together.
It's now one union with two presidents, and this has broken the usual cohesion seen during May Day celebrations across the country. The state's chapters are now left to their fate.
Well, I think we are facing a challenge. We cannot pretend that all is well with the labor movements in the country. And this factionalization is an indication that somebody is aggrieved. And somebody that's aggrieved definitely has to give way so that he can be able to express himself. So I think it is unfortunate that we find ourselves in such a situation.
Not even the intervention of top traditional rulers or state governors have doused the situation.
Election has taken place. The outcome is binding on all Democrats who participated. We can't have a tradition in which losers have to be massaged and persuaded to accept defeat. That would be offensive to the essence of labor unionism and of democratic principles.
Things fell apart at the Nigeria Labour Congress as the election umpire announced Comrade Ayuba Warba as president after the March 13th election. Comrade Joe Ajero and his aggrieved supporters rejected the results and the outcome of that exercise, claiming that the election was not credible. But the election committee says no complaints was lodged before the vote counting or announcement of the eventual results. But the election committee says that no complaint was lodged before vote counting or announcement of the eventual result.
To throw more light on the division in the NLC, I'm now being joined by the NLC's Vice President, Mr. Issa Aremu. Mr. Aremu, you're welcome to the News at 10.
Well, good evening, and let me say Happy May Day, more or less in arrears.
Even though it's 2 days, that was 2 days ago.
Yes.
Well, speaking of May Day anyway, we did see a national leadership not united, unlike in the past when they spoke with one voice. Do you think that the emergence of two presidents in the body is responsible for this?
Well, I think, I'm involved, so it's difficult for me to make that assessment. I told you somebody else can make it, but let me put it this way to say that we also regret this development. I mean, certainly it's not in our tradition, it's not in our character, to have this kind of discordant voices. But with respect to the May Day, I mean, maybe you are looking at the leadership, but I also know the bigger picture we are looking is that we mark May Day in line with our traditions in the country. And this is the, let me learn, okay, this is the 35th anniversary of May Day in Nigeria. It started in 1980. The kind of vibrancy of May Day celebration we have today, I mean, 2 days ago, is consistent with what we used to have before. I mean, we had marches in Lagos, we had in Abuja, and I think we're all unison about the plight of the working people. But as you put it, I think it's quite a departure, from what it used to be, in a way in which, I mean, in the past we used to have a common leadership. And what we should ask ourselves is that why have we arrived at this?
That's what I was going to ask you, as in how come two presidents of the NLC?
Well, again, this thing is in the eyes of beholder, whoever is looking at two presidents. But let me put it this way: that is the reality that we are in. This crisis at hand, arose out of the challenges we face at the 11th Delegate Conference of the NLC. When I say 11th Delegate Conference, what it means is that we've successfully had 10 Delegate Conferences of the NLC. Now, what were we doing in the past conferences that we didn't have this problem? I think what we did at the 11th Delegate Conference was a departure from our rules. You watch the tape with just yours. I mean, NLC, we departed from our rules of engagement. We've already had nomination closed. Then all of a sudden, we open it on the floor. I mean, if INEC had done that on the eve of election, we will open nomination for presidential candidate and senator. What will NLC have done? So even as we lament this tape, I think we should also commend the spirit of the working people to say we should not just point out imperfections in government, we should be able to also expose imperfections in our movement. And I think that's what happened. Again, we also had the second fixed election, and that was very unfortunate. I mean, I feel quite diminished, and even at this hour, I'm still quite embarrassed that the NLC, we couldn't count 3,000 votes within 3 days, and then we also have problem arising from that. But I listen very well to Comrade Governor, who had just spoken, and I think for the fact that he was explaining, what the process of election is, that already tells you there's a problem. I mean, he ought not to have done that. I think the solution to this crisis would be for us to continue the process of reconciliation, which we have already set in motion. We need mediation, we need more dialogue, to address these issues. And it's not, I think what we don't need partial recognition of one group or the other. And I think I want to use this forum to really commend our veterans who are doing a good job. The first president of NLC, Alhaji Hassan Sumano, Ali Chiroma, Aero Phillips, they're all meeting with us, and I think the dialogue continues to resolve the issues.
But do you think the NLC is performing just as well as it did in those days? I mean, under the leadership of these people that you've just mentioned.
In fact, that's part of the crisis that also led to this, what we had at the election. In the past 5 years or so, I mean, everybody says so, the quality of leadership had really gone down. I mean, I was part of that process, and I think if you know what we go through internally to get the results, I mean, it's sad that even at this hour, I mean, look at the crisis of petroleum products. I mean, it's true that we're not in government, but Labour should be able to put pressure that this hour, Nigeria should stop importation.
So you think that the NLC is not putting that
much pressure? No, we should have done more. I mean, why shouldn't we pass petroleum industry bill? In a way that we can have value for what is going on in that sector. You talk so much about Chibok girls. I mean, NLC could have added his voice. Who are the victims of this violence? I mean, when you talk of 200 Chibok girls, these are future workers. They are nurses. They are supposed to be workers, of the future. But we kept quiet. So what we are saying is that the issue that arose at this election is part of who will represent us, or the quality of leadership. and the process you must get it clear.
And how can the NLC get back to that position
No,
of recognition?
I've said so, and I think we should get this point clear. Just like capital market, labor market is a specialized field. Nigeria we have vibrant mediation processes that have been put in place. We have industrial court, we have arbitration panel court, but above all, we have our internal reconciliation process. And I've said before, I'm confident with the job being done by our veterans, to look at what the facts are. I think we can look at the facts of the matter, and I hope that very soon we put this behind us and then we face our attack. But the challenge is not for anybody in government to recognize one faction or the other. That will not work. I thought it's important to put all the factions together so that we mediate, we discuss, and we dialogue, and we put issues behind us. Because the next challenge of change that we are going to have in this country, we have a new government. There's no way we can have those changes about fixing infrastructure, creating jobs in an atmosphere of disharmony and industrial.
And we're really hoping, really hoping that the NLC, does get back on track.
No, I personally share with you.
And emerges stronger than ever.
Excellently. I mean, I want to assure Nigerians that the NLC will be back fully.
Thank you so much.
To add as a voice for the common people in the country.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Mr. Issa Aremu. Mr. Issa Aremu is the Vice President of the Nigeria Labour Congress. He discussed with us the divisions within the NLC. And when the News at 10 returns, Kaduna State partners India in the area of agriculture. That's in a moment. Please join us again.